say goodbye to your American dream, because what was a slow and steady marathon for private equity to buy up all the family homes in America just hit absolute warp speed, and it is basically single family housing Armageddon. And for all of you that think your politicians, either Republican or Democrat, are coming to save you, let me go on ahead and get ahead of you there. The politicians you think you trust the most have gone full on Houdini or David Copperfield, holding bills out here like a red herring to keep you busy thinking they're coming to save you while they're taking bribes back here, and I've got all the receipts. The politicians you trust the most are the ones taking those dollars. Let's get into it. Over the last 9 months, I have been screaming from the rooftops that the increase in private equity acquisitions of single-family homes would be the bankrupting of the entirety of the working class of America. Lots of politicians have been saying they were acquiring 15% of homes or 16% of homes, 18% of homes. Some have even gone so far as to say 20% of homes in major markets. I've been saying at least 23%, but I thought it was higher. Unfortunately, when it comes to private equity, you can't see what they're doing. You can't see it because there's no regulatory agency that has insight into it, and there's no regulatory filing requirements for most private equity firms. However, there is ability to see tax documents, and the housing tax bills for last year are in, and we've got to say it is so much worse than any of us thought possible. That's right, folks. In the year of our Lord 2023, a full-on 44% of all single-family home purchases were by private equity firms. Do you understand? Do you understand how big a deal that is? Because for the last 9 months, everyone's been saying if they were buying about 20%, that would mean that by 2030, they were going to acquire 61% of all single family homes. 61% by 2030. This is double that, which means we've hit warp speed, and we're going to get to that number much sooner than any economists predicted, at least out in the open. And while I know a whole bunch of you are hoping that there's some politicians writing in to save the day, there were a couple this year that put up some bills saying they didn't want hedge funds to buy houses anymore, and they were writing in to save us. Well, let's talk about that. And while it's become a regular talking point for politicians generally on the left, although it's also been a talking point for some of the more populist candidates on the right, to say that they were going to come in and introduce bills that were going to stop hedge funds from buying up single-family homes, to bring back affordable housing to their communities. And two Democratic members of Congress, one in the House and one in the Senate, even went so far as to introduce bills this year. I'm going to tell you why it was all a ruse so you wouldn't notice what was really going on, and that they were actually complicit in allowing it to continue happening. You may or may not recognize Senator Adam Smith over here, but most of you on TikTok might know Representative Jeff Jackson. Both of these guys have made it their business to talk about everyday issues in a relatable way to help themselves either get reelected to their current offices or to springboard their campaigns for their new office. Like Jeff here, who's running for Attorney General in North Carolina after getting redistricted out of his current district. Each of these guys has gone big on talking points about the single-family housing crisis and affordable housing crisis, with each of them introducing concurrent parallel bills in the Senate and in the House aimed supposedly at stopping investors from buying single-family homes and bringing back affordable housing to their communities. Here's a quote from Rep. Adam Smith saying, "This affordability crisis has been exacerbated by an increasing number of large investors purchasing single-family homes, squeezing out prospective buyers." That's true. That is absolutely true, which led to him introducing a bill he named the End Hedge Fund Control of American Homes Act of 2023, which he co-sponsored with Jeff Markles. And there is no question that on its face, both of them introducing bills aimed at stopping hedge funds from owning homes seems like a great idea. Everybody wants to believe that's a great idea and that they're coming to help us. They're coming to make it so we can stop getting outbid on our own streets in our own communities by people that live on Wall Street and funnel money to billionaires. But what if I told you that hedge funds don't buy houses? No, they don't. They don't buy houses at all. Hedge funds are liquidity investments. That means that people can put their money in and get it out every month or every quarter. So they don't invest in long-term housing. They don't do that. Private equity, on the other hand, is a long-term investment where your money is stuck for about 10 years, which means that they love to invest in long-term holding assets like homes. So why on earth would two very well-educated men who serve our communities be putting up a bill that sounds like it's doing so much to help us with our housing, but in reality does exactly nothing? And if you want to know who's buying all the houses, there is no question. Blackstone is the private equity firm that far and away has bought more single family homes than any other private equity fund or investor in the world in the last several years. Last year alone, they said they bought an estimated $2.5 billion or 16,000 single family homes. That was midway through the year, and it got so much worse. So are hedge fund housing bans a game changer for the U.S. single family home market? Or did they just find the right reporters that didn't even understand how investments work and what hedge funds versus private equity funds do? I'll give you two guesses. First one doesn't count. So what possible reason could Mr. Smith and Mr. Jackson have for introducing legislation that makes them look like they're helping out in their communities while actually achieving exactly nothing for the voters in their communities by creating no new single family homes that are affordable, while not stopping any investors in single family homes from actually having to stop? I can tell you. Could it be that they're taking donations from Blackstone? Could it be? Could it be that they're taking $12,200 from Blackstone and $2,500 from Blackstone? And when I explained to you the way that this broke my heart, shattered me into a million pieces because of the way I have followed his journey, $3,100 from Blackstone and new donations that came in as recently as just a few weeks ago for his new campaign. Now, I know what you're going to say. Half of you are going to say, oh, it's the Democrats' fault. And half of you are going to say, oh, it's the Republicans' fault. But I am here to remind you that this is two wings of the same bird, okay? When you tell me that it's all one party's fault and the other side tells me it's all another party's fault, let me show you who these donations are flowing to. This is Blackstone last term, and they're donating 52% Democrat, 47% Republican, and the rest of the independents. They own everyone. And another split right down the middle again. Everyone wants to believe that you have been with the party that is just and the party that is good and the party that is here to fight for who you are, what you've worked hard for your entire life, your family and your community. And I am here to tell you that they have been captured. They have been captured. And people really are failing to understand how serious 44% of acquisitions are. Prior to the tax disclosures coming in, even the worst possible case estimates were coming in at 26%. And at that point, we considered it a 5-year reach until we had no choice and no way back. Well, I want to tell you what ChatGPT had to say when I asked what was going to happen if a firm or series of firms was allowed to acquire 44% of all available homes in the United States during one given year with no future of acquisition, just that one given year. Let's talk about it. Skyrocketing home prices. You can pause to read. Increased rent. Pause to read. Market distortions with monopolistic control, concentrations of ownership giving them control over all housing markets, allowing them to manipulate rental and sales to maximize the expense of consumers. Reduced market competition. The risk of a housing bubble because they're prospecting and what they're buying is just trading between one another. So the actual demand for housing by consumers is not reflected in the spending, which could create bubbles on bubbles on bubbles. And how about the impact on consumer spending? Because no one's going to have any more money. The entire economy could tank out. Social and community impacts, gentrification and displacement, because they're going to come in, they're going to buy up whatever's most affordable, and then they're going to come in and fix it all and turn it out and push out people from affordable housing that otherwise might have had a chance to live somewhere. Followed by housing inequality and a concentration of housing in the hands of private equity, exacerbating housing inequality with wealthier individuals having access while less wealthy individuals having none. Strain on public services and regulatory backlash. We'll see how that works out. Erosion of the American dream, increased wealth gap. And ultimately, while investment and revitalization could be positive, the overwhelming concentration of housing ownership by private equity would have a range of adverse outcomes, including economic, social challenges, hardships, and the things that safeguard the frameworks of the health of the housing market and the interests of the American population. That was a hypothetical based on 1 year of acquisition. So what are we going to do about it? You need to start calling your representatives in Congress today, now, and screaming that you don't want a hedge fund bill. You want a bill that stops corporations from owning homes right now, today, this instant. I'll put it here, right here. Just go to the boopity boop thing up there in my BIO and get through and start calling right now. And then when do we take to the streets? Are your guillotines ready? We are running out of time. If you're new here, my name is Tiffany. We work together to fight private equity and save small businesses in our community and the American dream. Are you willing to fight for it? Stick around.